So just to mention, again, the science fair for 2022, the topic is STEAMCivics, how STEAM can lead to a better nation. And really sort of the interesting thing behind this is what does civics mean? And actually asking children what civics means and what their role is as citizens. Civics is really the language of citizenry, and I know this will also be touched on a little bit more. It's how we communicate, it's how we plan, and it's also how we execute the change we desire. And it requires us as a people, as citizens, to find our voice, to ask questions, and to really learn our role in the community and in democracy. And we want our children to be able to understand this so that they take advantage of opportunities in democracies to be part of something meaningful, and that they don't resign their power and their decisions to other people. So in this year's science fair, we're challenging children to examine their roles as citizens of their countries, and then further create solutions in science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics towards a better nation. So the topic today, where we have some really great speakers, and we're focusing on a really important topic as the first topic of the day. I'll have the speakers introduce themselves, but then they will be discussing the importance of the voices of children in civics. So as they introduce themselves, I will ask the speakers to tell us their name, where and who they work for, or what they do, and then really to answer the question why they feel it is important that we're covering this topic. So I will start off with Robyn Emerson. So karibu sana, Robyn.
Thank you, Mugure. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. So good day, everybody. Good morning. My name is Robyn Emerson, as she's mentioned. I am an urban planner. I am someone who works in communities and works to build networks and bring people together of all ages. And so I don't only get inspired with being with older people or adults. I also love and enjoy to see young people have a voice, think about their ideas, express those ideas, and contribute them to the betterment of society. I also am the Africa Housing Forum Manager, where I bring people together to talk about housing issues and housing solutions. And so even at a recent regional All Africa conference, it was very important for me to have youth voices at that conference. And so we invited children from all across Africa to write in and tell us what housing meant to them. What does a home mean to them? And we heard so much, hope, so much inspiration, so much security, but also some concern about what a house meant to them. So for me, I think it's just always important that we don't leave the voice out of children because we think of them as future leaders. But right now you're not a leader, but in your future. So just sit here and watch me as I do my thing, and then I'll tell you when to come on stage. That's what I hope that we can alter.
Great, thank you so much, Robyn. So I also want to ask you to define what civics is for a child to understand that as well, before I move into the other introductions. I'd love to hear that from you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. Again, welcome all of you for this conversation as we talk about what is civics. If you think about it, the home that you were born into, so right, you came into a family, you may have found a mother there, you may have found a father in that home, you may have found some siblings in that home. You found maybe a shosho, a guka, people that were there and around you in that home. You may have found an auntie, some uncles, and even maybe a circle of friends that built up, and made up that network, your community. And so civics is about the study and the approach and the ways and the methods that a person that belongs inside of a network, inside of a community, exercises their voice inside of that space, takes their responsibility inside of that space, and then how do we create ways that that person can feel like not just feel like they belong, but all the doors are open for that person to exercise how they're going to make that place better. And so it's really citizenship we're talking about, if you will, specifically a nation, a state, a place where you are called yourself citizenship. And did you know that the moment you came onto the planet, the moment you were born, you were granted citizenship rights at that moment, immediately. They're not something that you have to earn, that you have to work for, that you have to beg for, that you have to demonstrate anything for. Just the sheer fact that you were born in the geographical location, you are a citizen of this place, and you have inherited rights inside of that place. And so this is so perfect that little Einstein is hosting this conversation to introduce you as a young person to civics, and then how do you exercise this? You see, Mugure, when I think about young people and civics and the exercising of their civic rights, I think about the young children in Johannesburg and Soweto, who, when apartheid was getting to be too much, and their access to education, they took to the streets because they said, this is my education. This is no one else's education here. This is my education, and this is my future, and I have a voice in how the quality of education you're going to give to me. Those young people, and that's why now everyone, when you see those banners and we have these days of the International Day of the African Child, it is because of those young people from Soweto who stood up and we said, no, the African child has a voice. And how can we continue to open up a space for the African child to have a voice? So Mugure, I think I got moved in preparing for this, that how perfunctorily we relate to that day. And we don't really remember that it was the African child in Soweto, but it was also the African child at Langata Primary School who stood up and said, these are my schools. I'm the one who goes to this school. And that's what the citizenship looks like when you activate it as a child.
Wow, great. Thank you so much, Robyn, for bringing sort of that scaling down to the children in terms of the home, and also sort of that connection that children have been doing this in Africa in terms of speaking up for themselves and speaking up for their rights. So I want to move to Willice to introduce himself. Willice, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then why you feel and you felt this conversation is really important and that you had to be part of this conversation. So karibu sana, Willice.
Totally. Thank you so much, Mugure, and to distinguished panelists. Our youngsters, upcoming youngsters, and scientists, STEAM enthusiasts, and civic practitioners. My name is Willice Onyango, and I serve as the Executive Director at the Youth Cafe. The Youth Cafe is a multi-award-winning, youth-serving, youth-led organization with its headquarters here in Nairobi, Kenya, with a theory of change, which is its pathway to action, adaptation, and learning. We work on a mission to advance youth-led approaches, as well as right-based mechanisms through which young people can achieve or be part of achieving sustainable development, community resilience, transformative change, and civic efficacy. So when you mention the role of children, STEAM and civics, the interconnection is rather obvious. We see technology, particularly advancements in emerging technologies, as tools through which young people and children, young adults, can exercise their power of franchise, can learn, can be able to be part of a community. And for us as an organization, we work across 8 pillars that form the organizing structure of our work. 2 of those are directly related to the topic at hand, that of governance and political inclusion of young people, as well as education, innovation, and technology. So at the Youth Cafe, you know, we are staring at an election in Kenya in front of us. And we have, you know, worked with the young leaders in the civic space, young leaders in the political space, young leaders in the economic spheres to come together to provide a unifying platform through which, you know, young people of Kenya can, for instance, influence the upcoming elections, general elections, in their favor. You know, this culminated into, you know, the birth of a youth manifesto with clear demands and calls from young people themselves to the successive government to ensure that the challenges that beset young people can be realistically addressed, confronted, and budgeted for by the next administration. In doing this work, you know, science and Einstein is a method. There's a method. So we asked the question how. Our how was to have consultations, very robust consultations around the country, consulting institutions that work with children, like primary schools, consulting young people directly in social spaces and where they, you know, live, such that at the end we had over 48, you know, consultations across the country. And the youth, you know, that we spoke with had, you know, transformative ideas, proposals on how the government and the society can work for them. And oftentimes, children and young people are, you know, written off that they do not have experiences, you know, worth acting on. But we say that the people who have experience around their own lived, you know, experiences are the young people themselves, are children themselves. And therefore, when our constitution says that we, the people, children and young people are part of the people. And when we talk about a country such as Kenya with a median age of 19, you are talking of a young nation in every sense of the word. Therefore, it is extremely important for young people to be involved in the important processes that shape their lives, will shape their lives today and tomorrow. As active participants, societies evolve, and with that evolution, we have to, you know, incorporate the changes in technology, in advances, in new ways of looking at things, new, you know, frameworks of imagining that comes from none of the generation apart from the young generation. So we are, of course, honored and privileged to be part of this discussion, and this is why, for us, civics is important, especially at young ages, since, you know, the ability of children to be given opportunities and spaces to participate will inform their future active contribution in the society. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Willice. I mean, there's so much that the Youth Cafe is doing, and even as we have this conversation, we'll be posting on our various platforms links to some of the work that you're doing and the manifesto that you also set up, just so that the young people, the youth that we're engaged in, can be able to access that information. So I want to go over to James Ciera, and James, I sort of also want you to introduce yourself, what your organization does, and also why you felt it was important for you to be part of this conversation. Karibu sana, James.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. James Ciera. I work with an organization called Twaweza East Africa. I double as the country lead as well as a senior data analyst. So professionally, I'm a statistician. People who go out there, collect data, analyze, and publish the information. So when it comes to the census, like what happened a couple of years ago, that's our area to count people, to get to know what they are doing and all that. Now, in terms of what we do, Twaweza is a bridge between citizens and the government, because what we do, we normally go out, collect information. Unfortunately, we focus on those who are aged above 18 years because there are legal issues collecting information about for people who are below the age of 18. So when we go out, we collect all over the country, although we also have other projects in some counties like Makueni. After we collect that information, we package it, we analyze it, and basically that's my work, and then we write reports. Of interest today, it's on issues that addresses children's rights and all that. And that's something that has been, we have looked at. For instance, like the recent survey that we conducted, it was on elections. And one of the most surprising thing, we found that the youths, those aged 18 under 25, they seem not to be willing to register as voters, which is a big concern, because when we project forward, we ask ourselves, these are the same people who will be like 40 in another couple of years. How will Kenya be? Because as you are aware, voting is our right. We have to go there, vote and all that. And when we get to see all these things happening, so it's like a wake-up call for us to get to find interventions, how we can entice or how we can make it be seen important for children, and a particular at your age, to participate on civic issues. The other issue can be like participating, like even in school, in issues to do with education, because it's your right to get education, because the government has a budget for each and every person to get educated. So we need to have young champions so that the government can be able to understand the importance of citizen participating in all these activities. So what we do is to highlight issues from Wananchi. We compile that, we bring the government close to the citizens such that they can have some exchange in terms of how they would want services to be delivered. One of the most shocking things that we have found out is that we have less representation among young people. It's a clear indicator that it's our duty to make children get aware, have interest, such that the involvement on civic issues can start as early as 18, especially when you get an ID. So it can't just happen when you're 18. This is something that has to be cultivated way back before. So with that, I think we can be able to move on. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, James. And I think something that you said right there towards the end, in terms of by the time children are getting to the age of 18, the reason why it's important for them to be active citizens must be quite clear. So it's important to be having these conversations with your children right now. I can see there's a question, there's a hand up from Abraham. So I'll just ask anybody who's in the attendees, please do type your questions in the question and answer section. And we will go ahead and be answering them towards the end of the session. We want to try and get as much information from this really great panel of panelists. We do have one panelist who was unable to join us today, and I just want to mention her. She gave her apologies due to a family loss. Renee Gamau, who's a business leadership coach, and she's well known in the space of really advocacy as the chairperson of Amnesty International Kenya. So she did give her apologies for this session, but we will sort of during the course of the day also be posting some statements from her on our social media channels. I know that there'll be a short video that will be shown right now. Then I will go to my second set of questions. So allow us sort of 1 minute, just a short message from one of our partners for the science fair, and then we shall continue. Thank you.
New Pepsodent Herbal. Introducing a unique combination of herbal extracts in an antibacterial toothpaste for strong teeth and healthy gums that protects your family and you. Every smile matters. New Pepsodent Herbal. Introducing a unique combination of herbal extracts in an antibacterial toothpaste for strong teeth and healthy gums that protects your family and you. Every smile matters.
Thank you so much. Okay, so happy to go back to Robyn. And Robyn, I want to ask you a question around, we're talking about STEAMCivics. So we want to connect the conversation around civic education and children and why they should be involved in civics with STEAM, science, tech, engineering, art, and math. And I know you also come from sort of a background in the built environment and have seen, of course, a number of really great innovations in that space and other spaces. It would be nice to hear from you. Why do you think innovation can impact civics? Like, what role does innovation have in the conversation around civics?
Okay, great. Thank you, Mugure, for that great question. Those of you that are here, let me ask you, how many times have you gone with your parents when they say in the morning, I'm going off to Baraza, you play and I'll be back? How many of you said, no, Mom, I think I need to go. I want to know what you're talking about there. Or how many of you have, even when they got back home, did you ask them, Mom, what did you talk about? Did y'all discuss how you're going to fix the pavements, Mom, around here? You know, I would love to ride my bike more freely, Mom. Or Dad, did any of you talk about where I'm going to, like green spaces in our neighborhood? What did you actually discuss that was related to me? And why I'm saying that is that, tying back to the STEAM part, is that whatever communal problems there are solutions, and a lot of those solutions require innovation. They require STEAM thinking. They require the analytic thinking that science gives you to come up with a hypothesis. Think about a solution. What are some possible ways that we can address the communal challenges? Are there, if you will, some artistic ways in which, you know, we can fix what is causing problems related to water getting to, enough water getting to the people that need water across this country? You have the answer for that. You are the next innovator and the provider of that challenge that is right now facing children. As I was watching a video last night about young people in Kilifi having to wait for 6 hours at night to make certain the jerry cans get filled up, and then they go back home and try to go to sleep and wake up and go to school, but they're too tired to do that. But you, inside of your STEAM thinking, have the next solution to those challenges. And so, Mugure, that's the connection for me with civics and STEAM. Is that it is going to take that kind of thinking, the engineering part, when we're looking at engineering, what's necessary, if you will, that we're designing our infrastructure. You are the ones that are designing the way that where we're going to live in these spaces. It's going to come from you. And so I always say that we need a dual mind, if you will. Some people think that science and technology uses that analytic side of our brain, and civics uses the other side of the brain, which some people may call soft thinking. But no, we need the development of you to be a whole person that is able to think on both sides, to see the connection of both of them. Bring your intellect to solve and to make this world a better place. It's on you, and we're depending on it.
Well, thank you so much, Robyn. I think like what you just said about is sort of identifying the problems, advocating for change, but until there be actual practical solutions, which usually come through innovation and inventing and asking critical questions and critical thinking, then they can't be solved. And that there for us as Little Einsteins is really that connection between STEAM and civics for the children. So thank you for that, making that beautiful connection. Willice, I want to go over to you and really ask you again, sort of the same question is that how do you think innovation can impact civics and what's sort of the role of science, technology, engineering, art, and math in this, and maybe sort of even to give you a little bit of insight as to some of the projects we have seen come in for this particular science fair. There've been simple things from coding solutions in terms of following through the process in terms of an election, to other things which are art-oriented, or building sculptures in terms of how our earth would look like if we continue with the current environmental policies, and how the earth would look like if we do not. And they were proposing that this sculpture should be put outside of Parliament, so that when people come out, they see the side of the planet which is dead and the other side of the planet that's alive, that policies can be made to be able to benefit our environment. But I'd just sort of love to hear from you. What do you think is the importance of innovation? Why are we, as a company that is focused on science, technology, engineering, art, and math, talking about STEAM and civics?
Thank you so much again, Mugure. I think that is a very interesting angle. The role of innovation and mathematics and engineering cannot be gainsaid. And when we talk about innovation in the civic engagement context, it means a new way of doing the same things. And from our experiences, especially working to also register first-time voters as part of the IBC's Youth Coordinating Committee on Elections, there is need for fundamental shifts in innovative ways in which we can reach youngsters, children, with the information about elections, with information about voting. The use of art is extremely important. Actually, last month we worked with artists. Use of theater, because these are the new ways of doing things, other than communicating to children and young people through newspaper or television. The use of digital media, extremely important in terms of reaching young people in spaces where they are. And solution-oriented, such as the ones you've mentioned, coding to find solutions. At the moment, we see a lot of disinformation, fill the space, such that for a child and a young person, it becomes very hard to distinguish between what is factual and what is fake in the context of the elections. And through coding technologies, algorithms, we've seen solutions that are able to flag disinformation campaigns and attempts that are aimed at tilting or spreading propaganda or a certain misinformation or another. So that is one, but it is also a double-edged sword. Oftentimes, innovation and technology can also be used to, for example, propagate misinformation around elections or around key stakeholders, including institutions. We've seen disinformation targeting clearly independent institutions, commissions that are handling the elections, including actors who are standing or contesting for elections. So for young people, I think we need to come up with solutions that can, for example, encourage and reach youth where they are, using new ways of doing of civic education, for instance, the use of arts, community town halls, performing, working with artists, use of community radio. So all this, any approach that is out of the normal way in which we communicate to the society in terms of their civic engagement, really needs to be called to the fore. And engineering, particularly technology-oriented solutions, can really help, because this is where the youth are. Most young people are not necessarily fascinated with the old ways of doing things. They want to see more innovation, the use of digital platforms like TikTok, like Instagram, to communicate to them by institutions that are still stuck in the past. So we need more innovative ways in how we look at encouraging and reaching out, educating young people such that we don't have the apathy. For example, the voter apathy that one of the panelists already talked about, but also has been evidenced by the recent report with respect to low young voters, young people willing, to come out and register as voters and also to exercise their power of citizenship.
Wow, thank you so much, Willice. There's so much there to unpack. Even I think when we sort of had our briefing session, we had a conversation around also using technology to reach these young people, and you've also mentioned that in terms of we can't be doing things in the same old way. So I'm really grateful that you brought out that element as well, how STEAM can be used to raise awareness in terms of civic education for young people. And I know, we said it in a passing way, but why isn't IEBC on TikTok? Because that would absolutely reach a number of youth in terms of their rights, in terms of why they need to be voting. So thank you for that. So James, I want to come to you, and I think you particularly sort of have a very interesting and demonstrated how mathematics in terms of data is important in driving advocacy in civics. Could you just tell us a little bit more about that and why you feel STEAM is really important in the space of civics?
Thank you, Mugure. As a statistician, probably have been there for some time. I remember when I was in school, we never used to have calculators, whereby we used to use logarithm tables and all that. And one of the reasons why we have to embrace science is because it simplifies things. I remember it used to take us like an hour to do some quadratic equations, quite difficult stuff. But nowadays we have applications, as science evolves, it makes things quite easy. I'm also looking at the Zoom, what we currently using. During when I was young, we never had to, never used to have these facilities. But now students can come together, they can be able to engage, they can be able to visit YouTube, get to see all that going on, be able to have like a conference and all that. So these are the benefits of science. So in my area of research, given that I'm a mathematician, we have algorithms that are quite difficult. But the good thing is that we have like application, very friendly application, because the other day I was looking at how children can be able to learn coding, because as we analyze data, we have quite complex code. But the way things are right now, even a child can be able to analyze, be able to get data, go ask people question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put it into the computer and be able to get output. So these are some of the benefits that we reap from science. So at an early age, getting into it, and if you already know the topic that you want to research on, if you want to get to know how children are being molested, how they are being subjected to many bad things, you can go out there, collect that information, put it into a software that is child-friendly, and be able to get results like mean, median, and all that. So this is something that is doable. So science is something that is good, and we need to embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James, for that. And just so that bringing it back to what we are actually doing, the science fair, we do have, in terms of the technology submissions, that was a very competitive sector of the competition. We had some really great solutions that were brought forward by the kids, and the voting is ongoing right now in terms of which team will win, and we have the videos and the voting links available on our social media pages. Please take a moment. It closes in 1 hour, 20 minutes. So you're welcome to vote, and we'll be unveiling the winners and telling you more about their projects tomorrow at the science fair. So I want to bring it back because we will be winding this conversation up shortly, and I want to give a little bit of time for some questions. So again, please do post your questions in the Q&A section, and then we shall go ahead and try and answer them. As you post a question, if there's someone specific you want to answer it, whether it is Robyn or Willice or James or myself, please say, this question is for Robyn, this question is for James, this question is for you, Mugure. So Robyn, I want to come back to you because I do know you have a sort of a time limit. So I want you to sort of close up with your closing remark around we sort of want to live, and you're actually the person who sort of raised this. We need to leave this conversation with maybe not a call to action, but to give the children practical things that they can do to strengthen their role as citizens. So what simple practical things would you tell children to do today in terms of their role as citizens?
Great, thank you, Mugure. Can I start with one thing I wanted to mention, that the impact of children being outside of the civic space. I don't know if we really kind of presence that also, that the children, you being left out of this space, it leads for the exploitation of children. Children are, it leaves that gap, that space for you to be exploited. And what do we mean by exploited? That you might be taken advantage of, that you may find yourself in situations where some people may think that you don't know your rights, and they will ask you to do things that are not in your best interest, or you might find yourself in places that again are not for you. And so that's the challenge, if you will. If there's only one or two youth, then it can be diminished. But if it's all of you, standing up, giving voice, taking space, then everyone, us adults, will be challenged. We'll be challenged to know that you know your rights and that you are not going to have them be disregarded. And so, Mugure, I just wanted to presence that there are some consequences, if you will, that we all are responsible for, safeguarding and making certain that they don't reach that level. And so what are some things that, that you could do today? Well, here's one of them. I would just go immediately and read that children's bill that ascended recently. So the president, President Uhuru Kenyatta has signed the children's bill that gives expanded, enshrined, not to be taken away from you, rights that say that if you get in any legal trouble, that there's a certain what's granted to you. If you find yourself in trouble, there's some rights that are granted to you that weren't there before now. There's some kinship that's written inside of there, that if you find yourself and you're looking for some kinship to people to create a new family with, that wasn't there before, yesterday or today, I think this week, if you will, that's now there. Now, I would go and read that and ask, just talk to your friends. It may be boring legal language, but what I'm saying is go and find out what is your right. And maybe that's the first thing to start with. There is a convention of children's rights that does exist. I would ask your teacher, can we look at that? Can we go and see what that convention of children's rights is? Can we take some time and explore what that is, what it means, and ask your teacher if you can, squeeze in some time in between the English and the math and so forth, and ask for some time. The other thing I would do right now is when you get home, is to ask your parents, what do they do as a citizen regarding exercising their civic rights? Ask them, what do they do in the course of their lives that they would consider is the exercising of their citizen rights or their civic space? And then ask them, what can I do that models that? What can I do that models that? So those are really some practical ways that I suspect you're going to give your parents a real challenge with that question. So please ask them, what do you do, Mom and Dad, that you can, or auntie or whoever, you know, it is that your guardian, ask them, what do they do? And then ask, what can I do also? Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Robyn. I think you're going to get some of us parents in trouble if we go home and start having some of these conversations with our children, especially because we find this age of kids are not shy about asking questions, which is fantastic, and they're so inquisitive and curious, and also seem to understand quite a bit what their rights are, and will tell you, you listen to me, which I think we really need to encourage and give them that space to speak and to be listened to. James, I want to go to you next. Robyn, sorry, just in case you do need to drop off, I thank you so much for being part of this conversation. It's such an important voice to hear. Do you want to say a parting shot just in case you do need to leave?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, my parting shot is, I'm actually here at SHOPCO, Shining Hope for Communities in Kibera, their first graduating class of girls from their girls' school. And I'm just present to what it is, what the difference that it makes when we actually do design spaces for children to thrive and for them to participate and for them to have a voice. And it is incumbent on all of us to create those spaces. So it's incumbent on all of us to think about, and this is one of the things, Mugure, you're an urban planner, also, I think that we're practiced to look around and see who's missing in the room, who's missing in this space. And young people, I think you want to be asking yourself, who's missing here? And that's everybody from people with disabilities, if it's people from different geographical locations. So even in your classes, if you're going to class and it is homogeneous, I mean, homogeneous. You don't think that these people go to the same church as you. They don't maybe go to the same, they're not in this, you've never seen those people in your neighborhoods that you play with. Ask yourself, who's missing here? And create space for them, because inside of your STEAM learning, if you are only inside of one space, your learning is limited. Your perspective is very limited. And I think I saw somebody saying being a scientist is hard. Well, I think if you're looking at it from a perspective that there is a right answer or a right thing to do, it can be perceived as being hard. But the beauty of being a scientist is that there is no right way. It is all made up. It is all up for exploration. It is all up for it blowing up and going wrong, okay? So I think if you came from that perspective, being a scientist is not only people that put things in little beakers and stuff. Being a scientist in your life, trying to figure out how you can be some kind of way, be another kind of way. All of that is what scientists, living, thinking is. And so I think those are my parting shots. And it's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Robyn. I really think, the element of how much science allows you to think critically, to explore, to think outside of the box. And I think literally, I was having an argument about a week ago with somebody about the way things are not definitive because years ago, people thought the earth was flat. Science proved it otherwise. And we're continuously over time and over discovery, figuring out new things. And that is really the exciting part of what STEAM is and what Einsteins does, because we try and really focus on allowing the children to discover through project-based learning, through hands-on experiment learning. And even when something doesn't go the way they expect, what are the lessons they learn along the way, and what questions should they be asking in that space? So James, I'll come to you next and sort of give your comments around what practical tips or things would you recommend to kids to do to strengthen their role as the youngest of our citizens, and then of course your sort of parting shot in terms of this conversation. So James, over to you.
Thank you, Mugure. There's something that I've been thinking about because it's all about children's rights. Most of the time, we always think about rights, what others have to do to me. but many other times we forget that we also have some duties. So we need to look at rights and responsibilities. For instance, when you look at family setting, you have the right to be educated, but on the other side, you have the duty to keep your house clean. It's not your mom who is supposed to come and clean the house. For you to work in a mutual way, they're supposed to send us to school. We need to do homeworks. We need to do all these things. And whatever we do, as in when you're able to balance rights and responsibilities, you'll be able to progress forward. In a school setting, you have the right to be taught. And on the other side, you have the responsibility to do homework. If you fail to do your homework, the teacher will keep on teaching, but you are the one who will end up losing. Now, when I look at science, I think science is one of the most evolving disciplines, probably in the whole of the universe, because we move from unknown to known. So what I would urge you to do, sometimes you might feel so quite inferior because I've received a few questions. How difficult is it to be a scientist? But what I would encourage you is to have that inquisitive mind. As in, yes, there are complex things that you can be able to understand, but what are you doing with what you can be able to see in your environment? For instance, there is a small forest out there. Have you ever gone there to check and see the kind of animals that are there? Because what we need to do is to train our mind to think critically. When you just see a leaf and then you see its color green, you need to explore further to get what kind of green, because there are so many types of green and all that. So that's the kind of mind that you need to cultivate in yourself. And by doing so, you can be able to progress quite well. My issue that I need to address here is that we need to be citizens, whether we are young or old, because we have part to play in making things work better in our society. Science is also important because with time, everything will be made simple, and it's through science we're able to make quite complex things. We're able to simplify quite complex things. In my opinion, we have a lot of trust in you, and we have a lot of expectation. So it's upon you, with all that we have put in you, your parents, your teachers, and all that. I think the next generation will be at another level, such that you'll be able to reach more children. You'll be able to inform them of what they need to do. I'm expecting to see one time having a party that is full of children, because they have to fight for their own rights. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, James, for that. A party full of children, really something that we could look forward to. I sort of also want to, Willice, I'll close out with you, but before I close out with you, Willice, I wanted to sort of give the practical solutions and things kids can do in the space of being young citizens that Renee had wanted to express at this session, so that at least that can also come out, because it was quite pertinent information. And she had five practical solutions for children as the chair of Amnesty Kenya International. Become a member of Amnesty and join a school human rights club. The youngest member was 9 years old, so you can too, and I'll post some links on the chat so that kids can be able to get this information. Then read on what justice means, what the law means, what happens when civic rights are not observed. Amnesty has a book club, and children as young as 11 years old have participated. I'll also post the link to the book club. And then ask your parents who they're voting for kids and why. And I think the why is really important, because that also makes you start understanding the reasons behind the decisions adults are making. And at every level, because we all focus on the presidency, but there's MCA, there's MP, there's women's rep, there's senator, governor. Challenge them to do research and to tell you about the candidates so that their decisions are informed, and they're also held accountable to you as children in terms of the decisions they're making for you, because when they do go to vote, they do have they are making decisions that will impact you. And then learn about the United Nations Convention on Rights of the Children, of the child. I'll also post a YouTube link in the chat for you to take a look at, and we'll also post it on our social media pages. And then just the simple things in your day-to-day life. If you have a friend who is in trouble and you know that they're in trouble or they're being bullied, and you can see that they are fearful, speak up for your friend, speak up to an adult that you trust and you believe will act on it. So be each other's keepers in that space and as young citizens. So those were the takeaways from Renee, and I think they're very, very valuable in terms of practical things, 5 practical things that you as kids can do. I want to now move to Willice to go ahead and also give us his sort of parting shot and sort of practical things that the kids could do. And then, just let them know what else you may want to say from your platform as Youth Cafe.
Thank you so much, Mugure, once again. For me, I will leave the talented children and young people in the audience with 4 C's. One is confidence. Build your internal sense of self-efficacy at this point that focuses on what you can do rather than what your country can do for you, as was described very aptly in the narrative leading to this workshop. This is an opportunity also to build competence. Competences in terms of different sets of skills that can enable you to be an active citizen. And some of those would be social competences, such as interpersonal skills. Some of them would be cognitive. At this point, it's your opportunity to harness jointly in concert with others the cognitive skills that would enable you to be a very productive citizen in the future. Most importantly, you're still in school. It is a unique opportunity to build academic competences. Focus on school attendance, your grades, your scores. We have seen in the media awash with our leaders with all questionable academic background and credentials. It is a unique opportunity to focus on school and ensure that you attend grades that can enable you really be a great leader in the future. Build on connection. That is the third C. Build on your connection, harness bonds between you and your peers, family and community that can enable you in future to have a sounding board, as it were, with respect to your role in the community. Most importantly, build and harness on your character. Kenya has a national value system. Know the cultural rules that dictate the society. Know how to distinguish between wrong and right, because we live in a society where the right and wrong is often not as black and white as it should be. We need future leaders and young people and children today to know how to act with integrity, to behave and have a sense of what is wrong and right. Have a caring and compassionate, be empathetic to others around you. And when you do this, I believe that you can make a contribution, and that is the last C. A contribution that means both in your action, in terms of behavior, how you act with respect to your role in the community, as well as the ideological aspect, in the sense of, the belief that your contribution is necessary to your own civic duty. So this would be my last calls. You are much welcome to join the Youth Cafe as a member, as a volunteer. We have a library, a very vibrant library, multilingual as well. So if you're French speaking, Dutch speaking, English speaking, we have all array of leadership books that children and young people can take advantage of to harness their literacy skills and make sure that they are productive and effective citizens today and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Willice, for that. I note we've got a number of questions from Howie. I want to ask the host to see if you can give Howie speaking rights, maybe just to say something on behalf of the kids, how the session has been. On behalf of little Einsteins, I just want to say thank you so much to Robyn, Willice, James, and Renee for sort of being really giving us so much information, a wealth of information in terms of what children can do and around all the things that we should be thinking about from an early age before we get to be voters. And even as we're doing that, to remind everybody that we have gotten some really brilliant submissions for the science fair already. And these will be on display tomorrow at Lavington Montessori Kindergarten on Apple Cross Road from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So we encourage anybody listening to the session to please join us there to be able to see some of these really great innovations in STEAMCivics, and to, of course, also unveil the winners of the science fair. We're excited. Tomorrow we will also have another speaker. We'll be having John Githongo. For those who know John Githongo, he's been one of those advocates and really people who have fought for transparency and accountability in terms of use of public funds in Kenya. And he will be speaking tomorrow at the science fair. And he'll really be speaking to the kids about why integrity is important for young citizens and as they grow up to become the future adults of Kenya. You guys will actually be the ones who will take this country forward and will really take this country into something that we want to see. So thank you so much, Willice. Thank you so much, James. Thank you, Robyn. Thank you, Renee. Though you're not here, we really appreciate you. And for everyone who has been listening in through the Zoom platform, through Facebook, who will be listening in on our YouTube channel, we thank you for being part of this conversation. Have we managed to maybe give Howie speaking rights, being allowed to speak? Howie, would you mind saying something if you're able to talk? Maybe just unmute and remove your video. Sorry for putting you on the spot. Do you mind putting on the video?
My video?
Yes.
Okay, let me turn it on.
Okay, if you're able to. If you're not, it's also okay. And thank you.
You're welcome. Wait.
And introduce yourself and your school and your maybe yourself and your age, and tell us something about science and what you learned.
Okay. I'm not able to turn my
video on. That's okay. Go ahead.
My name is Harry. I have a sister called Howie.
Oh, hi, Harry.
But I was the one who was asking the questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Harry.
So I'm 11 years old.
Great.
And I'm in Oak Tree School.
So did you learn a lot today in the conversation?
Yeah, I did. I like math and science, but I would like to be an architect when I grow up.
You would like to be
an architect.
Oh, an architect.
Yeah.
Harry, I'm an architect.
You are?
Yes, I am.
Oh.
We shall talk after this, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. And did you like the conversation? What do you think about your rights as a child?
I think that every child has a right and to education. And I would like our parents to be appreciated for this, because they're the ones who they allowed us to do this, because they were supposed to be somewhere today, but they gave out their time for us to be able to do this Zoom meeting. Yeah, and I like the youth cafe. I'm going to check it out.
Great, thank you so much, Harry, for speaking on behalf of all the kids. We really appreciate you. And I hope to see you tomorrow at the science fair so that I can chat to you about being an architect as well. Okay.
Okay.
All right, great. So we shall bring the session to a close. Again, thank you to everyone for listening. And please do join us. We have another session at 2 p.m., which will be featuring some student leaders. So it will be actually as a panel of young leaders, children from the ages of around 8 to 12 years old who are leaders in their schools. And then we meet also tomorrow at the science fair. Thank you again and have a good day. Yes, Henry?
I was asking.
Yes.
How do you reach the youth cafe?
Willice, Harry has a question for you.
Hi, Eri. Let me type our website and which has the contact page, or I will share with the Mugure so that I can distribute the contact information with the phone numbers and email addresses and the location.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Harry, thank you, Willice. All right, have a good day, everyone. And thank you so much for being part of this conversation on STEAM Civics. Bye, Harry.
For what?
Maths.
So what's the name? What's the spelling? STEM, which is? Ah, that is good. That is good. Let's go. Do it. Hey, hey, hey,
Let's have one of you guys. Show us what you. Hey.
The Little Einstein Science Fair is so awesome. My name is Kayla Kimani and I'm going to ask the kids some questions about the experiments and what they do and how they work. Let's go.
It's a roller coaster made out of cups, paper rolls, and plastic plates.
The salt will move, but actually just the balloon that's vibrating.
The project shows an example of how the eardrums work. The vibration moves up and down, and the sound is interpreted by the brain. So maybe practicing how to drive?
Oh, okay.
How did you come up with this experiment? Wow.
Would you like to take us through what the wolves do?
Why did I arrive? There is enough mechanical energy produced by water.
Can use it to carry heavy loads.
Oh.
Well done.
That's a good answer.